Jackie, you're muted. Jackie Baker.
Thank you.
You're
Good
welcome.
afternoon and welcome, everyone. We would like to call this meeting to order. My name is Jackie Baker, a member of Christ the Lord Lutheran Church. We want to know who everyone is here. Please go to the bottom or side of your screen and click the conversation bubble to open the chat box and share your name and the institution with everyone.
So we want to ask everyone who does not have a speaking role on our agenda today to stay on mute. And again, welcome everyone and good afternoon. It's such a spectacular, beautiful day. I'm very pleased to see so many of us were able to make it out here. My name is Bill Kale. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Geneva. I'm also a member of the Fox River Valley Initiative. A wonderful thing to be here today. Jackie and I are your co-chairs for today's meeting. And the chat box, you can find wherever your chat box is. It's going to be at the bottom, the side, or the top, depending on what your operating system is. A little thought bubble-like thing. It says CHAT underneath it. Click on that. There'll be a Google document, a PDF of our agenda for today, and take a look at that. Today's agenda has been prepared by a team of leaders from the Fox River Valley Initiative, member institutions. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Almost everybody. Is anybody opposed? The motion carries. I gavel this meeting to order. Let the meeting begin. First, some Zoom logistics. Wouldn't be Zoom without it. Stay on mute unless you have a speaking role. And if you have a question or a technical issue, please ask in the chat box. We have a team who are fielding questions. If you have a particular question for our candidates, we ask you contact the candidates directly. We'll provide some information at the end of the meeting. We want to recognize Scott Douglas from the Highland Avenue Church of the Brethren for being on our Zoom admin today during this meeting. Thank you, Scott. Jackie?
The Fox River Valley Initiative, or FRVI, is an organization of institutions from across Kane County. The people's institutions, such as congregations, nonprofits. Oh, Scott. Oh, hold on. I got to get my paper. There we go. Sorry. Congregations, nonprofits, associations, healthcare providers, and unions, the places where we gather, find meaning, and live our lives. We organize. We build relationships across boundaries of class, race, faith, geography, and ideology so that we have the ability to act together to address the issues that affect our lives. We are focused on results. We take large problems and break them down into concrete issues. Issues that we can focus on with urgency and where we can make a difference. We are nonpartisan. Moderates, conservatives, liberals, and radicals committed to acting on our social values and working for a just society by standing for the whole. We are independent. We do not take public money. Our primary source of funding comes from our member organization dues. Each of our member institutions has made a unique decision that as part of our mission, they want to organize their power with others, to be in relationship with one another, and to leverage that power towards seeking justice for the common good.
We want to recognize the delegations from our 17 member institutions of the Fox River Valley Initiative, and especially those who have turned out in big numbers to be here today. The Association for Individual Development has over 50 people, and the Highland Avenue Church of the Brethren have over 30 people. And visiting delegations from Waubonsee Community College, Logan Street Baptist, and the Fox Valley Presbyterian Church. Next slide, please. The Fox River Valley. Oh, we got a big feedback. There we go. Fox River Valley is an affiliate of the Industrial Areas Foundation, the nation's oldest and largest network of citizen power organizations. In Illinois, we are 4 affiliates in total, with 95 member institutions in 4 counties. may have to stop and see. Can we check that everybody's muted?
Bill, unmute now. Thank you.
I just did that. Ready to go? Here we go. All right, let's do that again. The Fox River Valley is an affiliate of the Industrial Areas Foundation, the nation's oldest and largest network of citizen power organizations. In Illinois, we're 4 affiliates in total with 95 member institutions in 4 counties. Across the Midwest and the East Coast, we're referred to as the Metro IAF. Please wave if you are from one of our sister organizations, DuPage United, Lake County United, United Power for Action and Justice. Do we see anybody here? We've got some guests. That would be awesome. If we were in a gymnasium or an auditorium, we'd be able to see each other. Let's take a minute and go into a gallery view and scroll through the squares and check out all who's here today. We're going to ask everybody to unmute yourselves for a moment. And when you get a good look at the people that are here, we're going to take a moment for applause. So if you can find your unmute button, please try and do that now. Unmute, take a look around the room. And let's give us all an applause for being here on a spectacular sunny day to do some good work. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Back to,
Today,
all right.
Today our purpose is to begin a public working relationship with the next Kane County Chairperson and State's Attorney.
Jackie, unmute, please.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. Today, the purpose of our meeting is to begin public working relationship with the next Kane County Chairperson and State's Attorney. Neither incumbent is seeking re-election for these 2 offices. Today, we have all 4 candidates. For County Chairperson, Corinne Perogue and David Rickert. For State's Attorney, Jamie Mosser and Judge Bob Spence. Welcome. Thank you for coming. We also wanted to welcome area political leaders who are here as observers. Geneva Mayor Kevin Burns and council members. If there are any more political leaders, please introduce yourself in the chat. Now I'd like to invite Carl King to lead us in secular prayer.
Hi, my name is Carl King. I'm the Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministries at Baker Memorial United Methodist Church in St. Charles, and a part of the Northern Illinois Conference of United Methodist Churches, a member organization of the FBRI. Here's a secular prayer for our democracy in the words of women. Alice Walker said, "I have great respect for democracy now." Indira Gandhi said, "Democracy allows you to have small explosions and therefore avoid the bigger explosions." Marie Curie said, "Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less." Molly Ivins said, "The thing about democracy, beloved, is that it's not neat or orderly or quiet, but it requires a certain relish for confusion." Josephine Baker said, "Americans, the eyes of the world are upon you. How can you expect the world to believe in you and respect your preaching of democracy when you yourself treat your colored brothers and sisters as you do?" Marian Wright Edelman said, "Democracy is not a spectator sport." Let us all say amen.
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 Thank you for that, Carl. I believe it's my turn. Is that true, co-chairs?
Yes, it is. Take the floor,
Okay.
Stacy.
Thank you so much. My name is the Reverend Stacy Walker, and I am the rector of St. Charles Episcopal Church in St. Charles. I am also a graduate of the Seminary of the Southwest in Austin, Texas, which was where I was first introduced to community organizing as a course of study 17 years ago. We were taught by an organizer with Austin Interfaith, which is an IAF affiliate, much like the Fox River Valley Initiative. I learned then how useful the methods of organizing were in bringing our faith to fruition through building relationships within a congregation and building relationships between a congregation and other institutions in a community. For many years, I worked these principles of one-to-one meetings and listening sessions within the congregations I served. But in every congregation I have served, there have always been larger issues of injustice in the community that impacted the quality of life of my parishioners and our neighbors. Issues of injustice that I often felt powerless to do anything about. There is not a day that goes by that I am not aware of the personal stories of those affected by the shortage of affordable housing, inadequate support and treatment for those struggling with mental illness and substance use disorder, and gun violence. These are all issues that the Fox River Valley Initiative has seen wins through successfully organizing our member institutions into building relationships with politicians and allies in local government and civil society. I am grateful to have the opportunity as a pastor and a leader in my community to be a member of FRVI, to build relationships not only within my congregation, but also among our member institutions, with our allies, and with our interested neighbors. It takes time and effort to build these relationships, yet it is through these relationships built on a shared passion for serving our communities that hope is born for a better life for all who call Kane County home. For the first time in 8 years, the incumbents for state's attorney and county chairperson are not running for re-election. We want the next chairperson and the next state's attorney to meet with us, work with us, and imagine with us. We want a relationship centered on respect, recognition, and results. Here's what respect means to us. Candidates, we know who you are, you know who we are, and who we represent. When we ask for a meeting with you, we don't get pushed down to a staff person. You get back to us. We call you, and you call us. We've done this with other elected and public officials over time. State's Attorney McMahon, Sheriff Hayne, Sheriff Kramer, Representative Anna Moeller, Senator Don Harmon, Mayor Lightfoot, Sheriff Mendrick and DuPage, etc. Recognition. We thank you, candidates, for meeting with us today and in the meetings leading up to this assembly. This is an example of what recognition looks like. And results. We have results in building affordable housing, fighting for local county crisis intervention team training. We have results in increasing funding for crisis stabilization units. And we have results in pushing for transparency in our government processes, as well as increasing gun safety. In a few minutes, we will share what we want to continue working on together with the next chairperson and the next state's attorney. Decriminalizing mental illness and substance use disorder, more affordable housing, more measures for gun safety, and busting up corruptions by having and enforcing government transparency. The next step of recognition is this. Before we go any further, the most important thing is that we have a commitment to meet and work with each other. So for the 4 candidates, my first question for you is, here on the board, thank you, Scott. If you are elected, will you meet with us, the Fox River Valley Initiative, within 60 days of taking office? Please answer yes or no in this order. Candidate for County Chairperson, Corinne Pirog.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Candidate for County Chairperson, David Rickert. And you'll need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'll be glad to meet with you.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you're here with us still, David.
Thank you.
Candidate for State's Attorney, Jamie Mosser.
Yes, I will.
Wonderful. And candidate for State's Attorney, Judge Bob Spence.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have a second question for all four of you. If you are not elected, we know that you'll continue to stay involved in public service. So will you continue to work with us in our issues or on our issues in ways that you can? Yes or no? And I'll ask you in order. Candidate for County Chairperson, Corinne Pirog.
Yes, it's work that I have already worked on and will continue to do with great passion and interest.
Thank you so much. Candidate for County Chairperson, David Rickert.
Yes, and I've always been very active as county treasurer, so I look forward to either role I fulfill in working with you.
Wonderful. Candidate for State's Attorney, Jamie Mosser.
Yes, I will. I have a lot of commitment towards our community, so I'd love to continue with your organization.
Wonderful. And last but not least, candidate for State's Attorney, Judge Bob Spence.
Yes, I certainly will. Recognizing, of course, that the winner has a lot more influence than the loser, but that's life. So sure.
Well, thank you for that. But as I said before, building relationships is really important, and we all live here together in Kane County. So thank you so much for your willingness to work with us and for their willingness to answer these questions in this new Zoom forum. I think they deserve a round of applause. So if all of you who are present, take a moment and unmute yourself. And I'll give you a few seconds to do that. And let's discuss for a moment of applause. All right, thank you. Please go ahead and mute yourself again. And I hand this over back to our.
And I'm back and unmuted. So welcome. Here we go. Now it's time in our agenda to roll up our sleeves and get to work. We're going to lay out 4 specific issues. Gun safety program called Do Not Stand Idly By, decriminalizing mental illness and substance abuse, affordable housing, and government transparency. I turn the podium over, such as it is, to Dr. Susan Setchner. Susan, it's all yours.
Hi, I am Dr. Susan Sept. There, can you hear me? Okay. I am Dr. Susan Sechner from the First Congregational Church of Geneva, which is a member institution of the Fox River Valley Initiative. I want to introduce you to Do Not Stand Idly By, a nationwide initiative created by the Metro Industrial Area Foundation to reduce gun violence through gun safety. Our goal is to get the gun industry to invest in and support gun safety through biometric or fingerprint locks on guns to ensure only the owner can fire them. 40% of gun sales are to law enforcement and military. We are organizing mayors, police chiefs, and our own Kane County Sheriff Kane was the first county sheriff to join this consortium at our request. This group is testing these locks to help the current manufacturers make them 100% reliable so they can soon become part of state-of-the-art gun production. We had approached gun manufacturers prior to this at shareholder meetings with other concerned shareholders to get them to report on their role in making guns safer. Their response was nothing. They did not care about lives or safety, only money. We do care about making guns safer, and we are inviting leaders from government, universities, hospitals, and other not-for-profit groups to join us in this endeavor. In 2019 alone, the U.S. experienced almost 1,900 accidental shootings and about 12,000 guns were stolen or lost. I lost my own grandfather to a self-inflicted shotgun wound. Gun safety locks would not stop misuse by the owner, but they would prevent anyone else from using that gun against you or a loved one. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Susan Sechner. Next up for our presentation is Ed Manning.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edward Manning, and I attend St. Charles Episcopal Church. I've been a volunteer leader with the Fox River Valley Initiative since its inception, and I recently joined their staff. I'd like to talk a bit about our work decriminalizing mental illness. What initially seemed like a way to be an active, involved citizen soon became very personal for me. The issue that seemed to be at the forefront of every discussion we were having as organizers touched our home deeply. With a child that had serious mental health issues and not infrequent interaction with police in the legal system, decriminalizing mental illness and substance use was vitally important to my family. Here's how we as a group have tackled this issue. In 2015, we brought Judge Steve Leifman from Miami-Dade County in Florida to Illinois. While here, he met with judges, state's attorneys, law enforcement, and members of our community. Under Judge Leifman, Miami-Dade County has been so successful at mental health, criminal justice diversion that they closed an entire section of their county jail at an annual savings of $12 million and diverted 70% of those arrested away from jail or into treatment facilities. This program works. Our approach to diverting persons with mental illness and addiction is based off that model. It has 3 prongs. 1, crisis intervention team training. Training for law enforcement to identify people in mental health crises, prioritizing de-escalation tactics, and allowing diversion from the criminal justice system into appropriate mental health care. To date in our area, 190 officers and dispatchers have been trained through the county-run program. The work has only just begun. We need universal training. 2, permanent, supportive, affordable housing with wraparound services. Housing with an on-site case manager to follow up with people daily to see if the person is taking their medication, attending therapy, and going to school or a job. This is the most effective way to provide those with mental illness the stability they require to succeed. 3, crisis stabilization units. CSUs provide an alternative to the emergency room for people in mental health crisis or in need of a place to detox. They are staffed by mental health professionals who are trained to deal with mental health trauma and link people to follow-up behavioral health care. Their cost is a fraction of what the ER can be. The turnaround time for police officers dropping people at a CSU is also much quicker than an ER visit, allowing officers to return to duty within minutes, not hours. 5 CSU units have been proposed or are operating in Northern Illinois. One in our area, Amita Mercy Medical Center in Aurora, has completed fundraising, had their permits approved, and will break ground this fall. You can see the proposed unit on the slide shown here. But in a county the size of Kane, it's imperative that we find a way to add to this success countywide. Thank you, Scott. In addition to the diversion model we've helped facilitate, the Fox River Valley Initiative and our sister organizations met with Governor Pritzker within 90 days of his taking office to remove a huge Medicaid reimbursement obstacle, ultimately bringing the current hospital reimbursement for 8 hours of service to $900, a more than 3,000% increase. Finally, our sister organization, DuPage United, has been leading an effort to minimize the time that patients found unfit to stand trial remain incarcerated in jail and in the mental health facility in Elgin, Illinois. Through our combined efforts and with the cooperation of Kane County State's Attorney Joe McMahon and DuPage County Public Defender Jeff York, a letter outlining this terrible problem and what we feel are steps moving forward will be presented to State Senate President Don Harmon in mid-October at a virtual action hosted by Metro Illinois IAF. Moving forward, we hope to partner with our friends in government to begin tracking of data for all these programs. Facts drive successful policy, and the Fox River Valley Initiative wants to work with those elected officials who think big, partner with us, and prioritize these issues that affect so many of our friends and families. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks, Ed. Scott, you can start the affordable housing slides. Thank you. I'm Lori Baker. I'm the president and CEO of the Association for Individual Development, or AID. We're a proud member of the Fox River Valley Initiative, and accidentally were left off the slide of our member institutions earlier. So when we talk about affordable housing, what does that really mean? Well, it means that a household shouldn't pay more than 30% of its income on housing-related expenses. But in Kane County, shown on this slide as part of the Chicago, Joliet, Naperville Metropolitan Statistical Area, a household must earn $49,920 per year, or $24 an hour, in order to pay for fair market rent for a 2-bedroom apartment. Now remember, minimum wage in Illinois is currently $10 an hour, which means that a worker making minimum wage must work 2.4 full-time jobs, that's 96 hours a week or more, in order to afford a typical 2-bedroom rent in Kane County. And often rental properties charge more than what fair market rent is. At the Fox River Valley Initiative, we believe that our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, first responders, teachers, aides, baristas, and others should be able to live and afford to live in our county in decent, safe, and affordable housing. And as Ed mentioned earlier, FRVI also believes in the development of deeply affordable housing plus services for our community members with disabilities, which is called supportive housing, a subset of affordable housing. In 2018, FRVI began working with Full Circle Communities, a nationally recognized quality affordable housing developer, on the 1212 Larkin Project, a proposed 48-unit affordable housing rehabilitation and new construction project in Elgin, taking a blighted and vacant property and investing millions of dollars to create an historically accurate neighborhood. Fox River Valley Initiative held meetings with the neighbors around 1212 Larkin, met individually with every Elgin City Council member, wrote letters to the editor, and turned out more than 150 people to show their support for 1212 Larkin at the zoning committee and then city council meetings. The property received zoning and city council approval and is nearing completion. Lease up will begin shortly. This is what the property looks like today. Scott, if you could please play the video.
Coming up. Difficulty here, bear with me.
Give it one more minute here. You can see the beginnings of construction.
I am so sorry.
That's all right, Scott. We'll go ahead and finish up. But you could tell from just some of the pictures that you saw that they are historically preserving the main building. If people are from the Elgin area, they'll know the Larkin Center was once at 1212 Larkin, and building an additional number of homes around the perimeter of the property, which fit into and look like the historical properties that are around. This property has 48 units of affordable housing, which is just a drop in the bucket of the need in Kane County, which is why it's so important to the members of FRVI to work with our elected officials, member institutions, and county residents to support affordable and supportive housing development across our county. Bill, I believe you're next.
Yes.
Thank you, Lori. My name is Bill Wurst. I'm a member of the Cornerstone United Methodist Church in Elgin, and I want to talk for just 1 minute about government transparency. First of all, I want everyone on this call to unmute yourself for just 1 minute. I believe the Fox River Valley Initiative for Government Transparency. If you agree with me, please give a round of applause for our candidates today so that they might hear our report. Now, please mute yourself. Oh, I got this muting again. Recently, we had an example of how government should act. When the Kane County
Hey,
Board
I'm
met,
clapping for my meeting.
tied up the federal.
Bill,
Bill,
you're muted.
Try again. Okay. Recently, we had an example of how government should act. When the Kane County Board met to discuss how to divide up the federal funding that the county was to receive to offset costs and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. At first, they met without notice to the public, but the Fox River Valley Initiative heard about them and showed up. We asked that the meeting be public, which they agreed to do. The rest of their meetings were held in public, and the Fox River Valley Initiative was represented at every single month of their meetings. As a result, money from the COVID-19 fund was set aside for some of our county's social agencies to help them deal with their pandemic situation. We would like to hear from each of the candidates on this situation as they feel led. Thank you very much for your time and your appreciation for hearing our request.
Thank you, Bill. We're going to try to get that video that we were going to play for Lori's piece put up in chat, a link to it in chat. So keep your eyes open and maybe that'll show up in chat for you to see. So we've got a few questions that we'd like to ask each of the candidates. After I read these questions, each candidate will have 4 minutes to answer any or all of the questions or to speak to anything else that you would like. When you're reaching 30 seconds before your time is up, you'll hear this little bell. That means you've got 30 seconds left to go. So here are our 4 questions. Will you be a leader in reducing gun violence by encouraging other elected and law enforcement officials to learn about and join the Gun Safety Consortium of which Sheriff Kane is a part of? Second question. Can we count on you to use the power of your new office to help us stop incarcerating people with mental illness and substance use disorder by tracking crisis intervention team training data in Kane County and identifying ways to cost shift resources to better fund our county's safety net and keep people out of jail? Third, this is for the county chair candidates. Across our 4-county region, there is a dearth of accessible and affordable housing. Will you prioritize coordination between agencies and jurisdictions in Illinois to create a more efficient funding and approval process and work to eliminate so-called impact fees on the building of accessible and affordable housing? And last, will you help to change the culture of the status quo and pledge to better government transparency in Kane County and Illinois? So I've randomly drawn names out of a hat, and I'm going to call on you in that order. We're going to go in the order of Corinne Pirog, Dave Rickert, Judge Spence, and lastly, Jamie Musser. So Ms. Pirog, could you start off? I'll start your 4 minutes as soon as you begin.
You'd really draw my name out of the hat first. So hi, my name is Corinne Pirog. I am obviously the Democratic candidate who's running for Kane County Board Chair, and I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity to speak with you about my passion and interest for affordable housing and my long-term concern about mental health. In addressing the first questions, all 4 are deeply related to each other. Gun safety, of course, is critical throughout our county, and I know we have several candidates who will be speaking to that issue. Gun safety is terrorizing if you are using a gun inappropriately. We know that issues at what happened at Pratt in Aurora affected my own family. My daughter just started working at the Aurora Interfaith Food Pantry at that time. She had just started the job and she called me and said, "Mom, this is not what I signed up to do." It scared her. And I know that sounds perhaps heartless, but you can imagine here are volunteers delivering food and all of a sudden they're on lockdown because right across the street, gunshots are being fired. It scared her deeply. And of course, as her mother, I was terrified about what was going on. We look at mental illness, which caused this, the stress and anxiety of a man just having lost his full respect for himself and taking retribution on others because of that loss of respect. And we look at NAMI, and we look at now the call to defund the police. And I'd like to say, I don't want to defund the police. I think that's the wrong attitude. I think we need to refund the police. To refund the police so that there's social services surrounding them, so that people who call and are in danger, that they are allowed to have the proper kind of protocol, the proper kind of safety procedures, so that they can go to a wellness center, a mental health center, to get the necessary supports and not necessarily immediately put to jail, or in the case of Black Lives Matter, to have somebody shot down. These kinds of issues have to go back and forth between the police department, the sheriff's department, one and the same, as well as the person who is being arrested or accosted. I've got knocked on doors as I have been canvassing the last year and a half. And I've heard stories of people who've told me about their children who have mental illness. And I've had people who've come out and actually found me walking down the street, asked me, what can I do in my capacity to support them? What can I do when Illinois is funded at 48 or 49% to support for mental illness? From my past experience in this, I'm both personal and professional in this area. I worked with people who have autism. I have worked and experienced people who have bipolar and schizophrenia. And the need for affordable supportive housing in Kane County is dire, badly needed. And it's a much longer topic than I can possibly approach in just 4 minutes. But I can guarantee you that the work that I will do once elected will be to support that, because we need it for our seniors, we need it for our children, we need it for our community.
Thank you, Ms. Pirog. Next up, we'd like to hear from Mr. Dave Rickert. Dave?
First, I'd like to agree. It's very difficult to answer these questions in the allotted time, but I'll do the best I can to quickly go through my responses. First, reducing gun violence. Long before entering public service, I served in the military police corps, both in the Army and Army Reserve. In addition to law enforcement training and use of protocol with force, we also have had extensive training on firearm use, including training on many weapons not legal to the public. One fact remains clear: all firearms are deadly weapons that need to be treated with great care. As a responsible gun owner and a supporter of the Second Amendment, I applaud efforts to work with gun manufacturers to improve product safety and promote gun safety education to their customers. As your county treasurer, I've had the opportunity to work with Sheriff Kane, and I find him proactive in providing training to his staff and will enhance their ability to do their job. As chairman, my role would be to support Sheriff Hayden with these efforts and ensure that proper training of law enforcement personnel provided with up-to-date equipment will reduce our exposure to liability, enhance public safety, and improve our ability to serve the public. Incarcerating people with mental illness, a very touchy and complicated situation. As a certified public accountant with over 20 years experience working at the county, I've seen firsthand the challenges we face every budget cycle of meeting our statutory obligations, providing necessary public programs, and still being respectful of taxpayers and operating efficient offices, Kane County currently faces a $14.1 million budget deficit due to revenue shortfalls and additional expenses related to COVID-19. We must find creative ways to reduce our jail population and to provide necessary social safety nets to reduce crime and lessen the burden on taxpayers. The fact is, incarceration is expensive, and there are nonprofit organizations that can more efficiently utilize our limited resources to provide necessary services to those with mental health and drug addiction problems. If elected chairman, I plan to work on this on day one. Affordable housing, and please let me know if I'm getting short here. As an Elgin resident, I'm proud to live just blocks away from the development at 1212 Larkin Avenue. As your county treasurer, I helped bring the Kane Energy Efficient Program KEEP to Kane County. We are one of the first counties in Illinois to adopt this innovative financing tool that provides low-cost, long-term funding for energy efficiency, renewable energy, and water conservation for projects for our citizens. Also working with Dr. Monica Silva, Democratic board member from Aurora, we modified the county code to reduce or eliminate fees on special service areas that promote the health, welfare, and safety of our public citizens. In case of Dr. Silva, a special service area was set up in her district to provide financing to mitigate chronic flooding issues in an economically disadvantaged area of Aurora. In order to effectively address housing issues at the county level, you need a chairman with knowledge, experience, and the ability to work effectively with others. Better government transparency. As county treasurer, I've provided tax information online and worked with County Auditor Terry Hunt to provide easy access to county finances. And just this year, we upgraded the treasurer website to enable access on multiple platforms to include cell phones, tablets, in addition to desktop computers. One new feature of this site includes a multiple translation application that provides information in 7 different languages, including English. In order to successfully serve as chairman, you have to forge positive working relationships with department heads, elected officials, county board members, and the public. In addition to this very critical and necessary relationship, a special
Mr. Rickert,
relationship.
your time is up.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rickert. Judge Spence, you're up next.
So this is 4 minutes to answer all of those questions? I thought it was 4 minutes for each one.
Nope, answer any or all of them.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. First of all, thank you for what you do. I think it's important. I think it is really noteworthy, and I would anticipate being a part of this as an ongoing matter. Gun violence, I think you have to look at short-term strategies and long-term strategies. Long-term strategies, I think the Gun Safety Consortium idea is a long-term strategy. I think it's worthwhile. I think that it is certainly something that should be considered, and to some degree, I think it's up to the county board as an entity, because the state's attorney represents the county board, just like the state's attorney would represent the sheriff. But in any event, I certainly have no objection to that at all. I do think there needs to be a short-term strategy, and the short-term strategy is that people who use guns to commit crimes go to jail. And I don't say that from the perspective of wanting people to go to jail. That's not something I desire or get any pleasure out of, but I think it keeps the community safer when people who use firearms to commit crimes are not then allowed to remain in the community. That's my own opinion on that. For the past 10 years, I've been part of a program that evaluates sitting judges. And I went through this evaluation myself 10 years ago, and now I participate in evaluating other judges. 2 weeks ago, I met with a Cook County juvenile court judge to do her evaluation. She sits in juvenile court. She has hundreds of cases on her docket. 6 of those cases are car theft cases. All the rest are gun cases. Hundreds and hundreds of gun cases. And her opinion was that those defendants who use firearms are in jail one day and they're out the next. And if that could be remedied, that would go a long way to keeping those communities safer. So, and I don't disagree with that. I think that is a big part of the equation. The mental health issue, I think, first of all, we just have to distinguish between violent and nonviolent offenders. I agree 100%, more than 100%, that jails should not be used to warehouse people with mental illness. I don't think there's any place for that in our society, in a civil society. That should just not be the case. We do have a mental health court that has been in existence for about 10 years now, roughly. It has anywhere from 20 to 25 people in it at any one time. It is a great approach to dealing with those people who have mental illnesses and have committed, it's usually a fairly minor offense, and it's usually a nonviolent offense. It's a wonderful program. Holding drug, it's all about accountability. And accountability for people with mental health issues is much different than accountability for drug addicts. Our drug court has handled literally thousands of cases over the last 20 years. I've been to many drug court graduations, and I've heard many defendants who graduated thank the judge, thank their probation officer, and then actually thank the police officer who arrested him or her. I've heard
Judge
him
Spence,
say,
your time is up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the candidates for your very thoughtful answers today.
You have
like to,
one more.
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Ms. Mazur, I apologize. You're up next.
Thank you to Bob for remembering.
Thank you, Judge Spence.
Thank you. So Jamie Mosser, running for Kane County State's Attorney. So I absolutely would love to join the Gun Safety Consortium. I think it's a great idea. Making sure that guns are locked up so that people don't have the access to them is the first key to everything. And that, I think, especially comes from my experience in New Orleans, where I was a gun prosecutor. And in one day, we had 2 kids in our juvenile program who came in, who were arrested because they both had access to guns that were not locked up, and each of them accidentally shot somebody. This is huge. If we start with education, if we start with safety, if we look at it from that perspective, that's the best thing that we can do, from my perspective as a state's attorney, is to try to prevent it from getting into the hands of individuals. I am very grateful to have received Sheriff Haynes' endorsement recently in the election, and I know that he is very proactive in his approach to policing, and that is my goal as a state's attorney, is also to continue to be proactive. We need to provide education on this, and a consortium that discusses this, that provides safety, that really looks towards stopping this, is the first step that we need to take. Secondly, for mental illness. For both mental illness and drug addiction issues, we need to deal with those as a public health perspective. Because the more that we deal with it by looking at it as the mental illness and the addiction issue and less as a criminal issue, the more likely we are to put them into treatment. So I have 2 ideas. One, we have to strengthen the diversion programs that we already have in place. But we also need to bring in a law enforcement assisted diversion, similar to what they already have in Seattle, Washington, where at the time of the arrest, and this is where CIT training really comes into play, they identify somebody who's suffering from mental health issues or drug addiction issues. At that time, and with the help of the state's attorney's office, they divert them towards treatment. They divert them towards that holistic approach of helping them get housing, having a case manager that makes sure that they have opportunities to get a job. You're putting them in a different path as opposed to putting them through the criminal justice system. An independent study of this program found that 58% of the people in this program didn't commit another crime versus a control group that did. So again, the idea is to get them treatment, get them help, get them housing, get them the food, the safety, the resources that we all may take for granted. That's the goal. And that's what I want to bring to the state's attorney's office. The last issue that we were asked to discuss about is transparency. Transparency is huge. The state's attorney's office is not about one individual who's managing it. It is for Kane County. It is for our community. And the best thing that we can do is to make sure that people know what we are doing and why we are doing it. As the next state's attorney, I'm going to create a group called the Community Prosecution Unit. And these are people within our office who live in our community who are going to attend meetings and who are going to be able to answer questions. But more importantly, who are going to bring back to our office the issues that we see in Kane County. I want to be proactive in the approach of everything that I do. I don't want to just be reactive. I want to make sure that we get into the community, people know what we're doing, and that we're doing things for our community, because that's the best way we can do it. And throughout all of that, that's how we provide the transparency to the citizens of Kane County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mosser. Yeah, once again, thanks to all the candidates for those really good answers today. Bill, I'd like to turn this back to you and Jackie.
Bill, please unmute.
There we go. We had some technical difficulties of our own. And now I believe this is Dr. Reverend Michelle Wang for our next steps.
Good afternoon. I am Michelle Huang. I am one of the pastors here at Fox Valley Presbyterian Church. I'd like to share a bit about myself. Prior to being called into ministry, I was a public high school science teacher for 6 years in the suburbs of Dallas, and it was a rather affluent community. I taught in a school with super high achieving children. We had the best equipment and, quite frankly, some equipment that even college students wouldn't have access to. After my 6 years, I taught in 1 year in Los Angeles, and this was a seminal moment for me in my own formation as a human being. I went to teach at a high school in Los Angeles where most of my students were bused from South Central Los Angeles or Compton. And we were in a room, and I was teaching 40 kids in one room with 2 sinks and microscopes that are barely working. And at that moment, I realized the disparity in our education system was far greater than I had ever realized. And the inequity within the system was inherently against those of those children and our students who are from lower socioeconomic communities, and quite frankly, who are children of color. At that moment, when I realized that I had been living in somewhat of a bubble all my life, having access to good public education, when I was called into ministry, this undergirding desire to work for social justice was further affirmed and nurtured as I was called into ministry. And it also helped me to realize that the gospel message that I proclaim and that I live by is inherently about social justice. It is foundational to social justice, and that to live out my faith, I had to live out a way to help the voiceless have voice, for those who are marginalized to find access to services, and for those who are oppressed to help dismantle systems of oppression. So I have been fortunate to be called to this Presbyterian church where we are a discerning community. We are discerning at this time because we believe firmly in the necessity for people of faith and our form of government, that it is not a spectator sport, that we must act and be involved and not watch from the sidelines as those of our siblings who are suffering in an unfair and inequitable system. So I'm super excited. I know several members of my church are here with me, and we are we are thankful that such an organization exists as Fox River Valley Initiative. I've gone to the training and which further helped me to realize that this is something that we need as a community here, not only in the greater Kane County, but also part of a community where our people can work alongside each other to manifest those hopes and dreams that we have read about and been taught about and been formed in our faith tradition. So before we go on to the next steps, I'd like to share with you the survey that we would like for everyone to participate in. And in the chat box, you will see a link to the survey. You can fill it out at the end of our meeting, or you can simply take down the link for the survey and fill it out later as time permits. But here are the parts of the survey. We ask that you share your name, your email, and your institution so we can follow up with you. We ask that you indicate that you will vote in our elections in November, and that you will possibly act with us to join us in our action when we have Senate President Don Harmon join us in mid-October. If you would like details, please click or mark yes. And then finally, if you are interested in joining Fox River Valley Institution, we would ask that you would help us financially. Our goal is to raise $25,000, and so far we've raised $10,000. So if you could fill out that survey, that would be helpful for us to be in relationship with you and together partner with you to make things to go forward from this point. So at this point, I'd like for you to raise your hand if you're excited in joining me and everyone in the next steps in making a difference for social change and helping those who are voiceless find a voice. Okay, and I think Jackie Baker, you're up next.
I am, thank you. I'd like to make sure that you all please fill out the survey. It's very important. And of course, the reason we're here with the candidates is so that we can all get out and vote. So make sure you do that as well. Candidates, will you please share in the chat the best way for the attendees to contact you for any unanswered questions, and include your website also, please. If you're a leader of the Fox River Valley Initiative, please stay on the call for our evaluation. We'll be here for about 5 minutes for everybody to try to fill out that survey or get the link. Thank you everybody for joining us today. It was so nice to share with all of you. And this draws our meeting to a close. You may unmute and applaud if you like.
Thank you. This was excellent.